Hello and welcome back. In this video I'm going to show you how to set the fonts in your web page, so alter the style of the text and headings. I'm going to show you how to extract colour from the imagery that you've brought in, probably from Unsplash, maybe somewhere else, using a little tool that's called Colorzilla, as I mentioned in the last video. And I'm also going to show you how to then take those codes that you can extract from the images and any other colours that you may have already found and got the codes for. I'm going to show you how to add those to Elementor to then obviously change the colouring of different elements in the web page. So before we start, let's just have a quick recap. Up to this point, we've added some images using the right mouse button, click Edit Section. You then go to the middle tab to Background, and then you can the background type here, which is classic. We're typically using that in this tutorial. There are other types. As you can see, you can put a video in, but we're not going into that. We're keeping it pretty straightforward. This is all about getting a really clean and simple web page up. And then you click into this box, you add an image. When we created the Coming Soon template, we went to the waffle up here and we dragged in a heading like so, and then we changed the element of that heading so that it went in the middle, the alignment, sorry, and altered the text in the element to say Coming Soon or wherever it was. So we've had a little bit of an introduction to Elementor. What I'm going to do in this video is go through what I just said, and as I do it, hopefully you can pick up a little bit more of how Elementor works. There is obviously a lot of widgets here in the toolbar. These are all the different things that you can add to your page. This is the free version. The pro version has quite a number more. There's another video that's coming up that's going to go into a lot more detail about how to manipulate the layout of the page. So I will touch upon and go into some of the structure of Elementor then, so I'm not going to do it now. But as we sort of go through the fonts particularly, which is what we'll start on, you're going to pick up a few other things. And I think that's the best way to learn, certainly Elementor, it's how I learn, is just learn what you need to do at this point. Don't worry about sort of studying Elementor in any massive depth, even though it's tempting because of everything that's going on here in the left. You'd be totally forgiven for wanting to understand it all and sort of get your arms around it, your intellectual arms around it, so that you can then use it to its fullest. I just don't think that's possible. I think the best way to do it is learn what you need to for the focus of what you're trying to achieve in any given moment, which in this case is to how to change the fonts of headings. The colours will come up, and then obviously as you progress in using Elementor, let alone in these videos that I'm showing you, you'll just slowly but surely become more and more acquainted with it. So let's move on. We can change an individual heading or body text or whatever it may be by clicking on whatever element on screen it is you want to alter. I'll stay down here in the contact section for a moment. This applies to any text that you want to alter. So you click on the text you want to alter. We'll start with a heading actually, and you go to the Style tab here in the middle, and then you click on typography. As you can see, it's glowing blue. That means that it's already had something set in it, which it obviously did when I created the template. Within the typography button, in the different, there is the different characteristics. The family refers to the font family, and if you click in there, you'll get a couple of the old system fonts, and then you can see there is the list of all of the Google fonts. So you can obviously then click in there the one you want to find, which let's say Montserrat, or let's just say Montaga. If you then click on Montaga, you'll notice that the individual heading, these haven't changed, has changed to Montaga. Now, if you also know, it was set to default and it's gone back to this font. This font is actually Montserrat. So I'm going to show you how to set the defaults in a second. What this is when you want to change an individual heading. You can set it to anything, so you can have headings with different fonts. Wouldn't advise that. Things should be consistent, as I've mentioned before, but that's how you would do it should, for whatever reason, you want to make a specific bit of text or heading a different font to the rest. If you want to change the body text, it's exactly the same. You click on the body text itself, you go to the Style tab here in the middle, typography, as you can see, and there you go, you can change the family. You can also change the size. You can change any number of different other characteristics, the weight. So this is how to individually style the text on screen into different things. You can obviously see there is a number of options. If you look, that's just put capitals at the start of every word. I think style is, yeah, you can make it italic. I don't use these that often. I quite like simple design, less is more, as I keep bleating on about. Line height is pretty obvious. It won't make a huge difference here because there's not more than one line, but you get the idea. And then obviously letter spacing, again, pretty obvious. You can make the letters go further apart. So this is how you style an individual element, or a text element in this case. And you can do that on any element on this page. You can do it in another widget, such as the testimonial widget. You click on it, you go to style. This will obviously be slightly more complex in the sense that there is 3 different tabs. There's the content, which is this Latin here, bit of fake text. There's the name, as in the person that left the review. In this particular instance, you could make that anything you like. It doesn't have to be the name of the person. You could make it the name of a company. And then title. Again, though, if you note, they've all got the same typography button. And if you click in there, it's all the same. So that is how you alter individual text elements. When you want to set default fonts, you would click on the menu up in the top left. Let me just show you that again. You click on the hamburger menu in the top left, you go to default fonts, and here you can see you can set the family for all headings. So if I alter this to Montagna, you can probably guess what's going to happen. All of the headings have altered, and it will have done that throughout the entire website, unless a heading has had a specific family added to it. So if I now change this one to a different font, Arial, you see that one's gone to Arial, but the rest of them are Montagna as I set them. So let me just undo that. Obviously, we want that to go back. Oh, great. There we are. So now it's gone back to Montagna. As you can see, it's a really simple way to go back to the default fonts. It's a really simple way. If you look all the way through every single heading, and if I put it back to Montserrat, here presto, it goes back to what it was before. So that's how you would set the default fonts for headings. That means that if you drag another heading in, as we did when we created the Coming Soon template, and as I showed you a moment ago, let me just put that anywhere, it's in Montserrat. If we change the default font again, it changes. So it's gone to Montagna. So that is how you would set the default fonts for headings. You can probably guess what's coming up. Ignore secondary headline. I don't ever use it. I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure where those secondary headings are, because every time I pull a heading in, no matter what type or wherever I put it, it's always a primary heading and it uses the primary font. So I actually ignore secondary headline. Body text, again, you can probably work out what's going to happen. If you change that to some different font, it changes all the body text, and it will have done that all the way through unless the body text was individually set otherwise. Accent text, this last one relates to buttons. So if we alter this again to Montagna, you'd notice the button text has just changed. Let me show you again, because it was quite quick. It's gone back to Montserrat. Now it's gone to Montagna. So all the buttons on screen have gone to Montagna. So that's how you would set the button text. That really concludes fonts. They're not much more complicated than that. From the last video, I hope that the Canva article helped you get at least a font that you like, if not hopefully a pairing. Of course, if you want to look at a broad range of fonts, you could look at the actual Google Fonts site. If you just type in Google Fonts into search and click on the top result, it will take you to the Google Fonts website, where you can look at the entire range. It may make some sense, because actually, to be fair, when you're in here and you're looking here, this window is really quite small. It would take you a long time to try all the different fonts, whereas Google Fonts, the actual web page itself, does actually lay them out in quite an easy way. You can also filter them into different types of font, so that could be a way to either get that second font for the pairing, or indeed just get some more ideas if you're still looking and searching out the right one. What I'm going to do now is move on to color extraction. So if we go to the top of the screen, I use this tool up here, which is called ColorZilla. This is an extension for Chrome, Google Chrome, the web browser. If you don't use Chrome, you could type in to Google search ColorZilla alternative. Let me just hover over it again. As you can see, it's spelled ColorZilla, all one word. Color is the American spelling, ColorZilla. If you just put ColorZilla alternative for, let's say, Mac OS, if you're using an Apple device or an Apple computer, or whatever browser you're using, if you put in a ColorZilla alternative into search, you will definitely find something. It may take a little bit of searching, but you will find a color picker. It's not a particularly uncommon tool, actually. I absolutely have to say, though, if you're not using Google Chrome as a web browser, I would seriously recommend it. It is without doubt the best web browser, bar none for me. I don't think many people would disagree that once you start, because once you start using Chrome, you just never stop. So there you go. So assuming you've got a color picker tool, particularly ColorZilla, which is what I'm going to show you in this instance, click on it and click on the page color active. Now if you scroll over the screen, you'll notice that black bar at the top, it's all the colors changing as the cursor goes over the various colors. If you just look at the color you want and click on it, it will save the details in the clipboard. If you then go back to the pipette and click on it, you can see there color picker, and there you go. There is the what we call RGB numbers. We don't need that, we need this one. So if you then take this is called a hex code, you copy it and you come into Elementor. Let's say that we want to change the background color on this button. We click on the button as usual, we go to style, and as you can see, if you just go down, this is laid out slightly different to such as a heading style, but it is actually all the same once you click in the various element characteristic buttons. So if you click on this one, it looks exactly the same as it did on fonts, for example. Of course, some of the widgets have different, they're structured slightly differently because they do different things. But the more you look at these different style tabs, you will realize that they are so very similar and highly intuitive. You go to background color with your hex code, you simply type it in there, and there you go, it changes the background color. So that is how you extract color from, I'm just going to put that back, that is how you extract color from an image using a color picker. Most of them work very similar, the color pickers that I've used. ColorZilla is the easiest one I've used because it is a Chrome extension. It just means that it's sat up there in the corner. I can just get to it really easily should I need it. So that's why I would recommend that. You could obviously use this on any image on the screen, so you can really pluck out any color that you like. Now obviously the color in the actual image might not be perfect. Sorry, just let me click on that. Yeah, it may not be perfect, but at least it gives you a color range. It gives you a certain feel. So when I was picking the colors for Webbit, and depending on when you're watching this will depend whether you're seeing these background images on the Webbit website. It will be changing and has changed since these videos were shot. But these images here were the original images that I used, and I actually extracted the color palette for the business for Webbit from, which you can see in the logo here, from this image, from this very image. Now, as I said, if I actually use when I use the colour picker on this image a moment ago, you'll notice that the colour that I plucked out of this ocean scene here was different to this background colour of the button. So what I'm saying is the colour I picked out inspired me to find this dark green, what we call jungle green. You know, and the blue streaks in the ocean there, they kind of were the thing that inspired me to find the colour here, this cadet blue that I'm showing you in the logo. So yes, you can extract the exact colour that you may use in your colour palette, but what you can do is you can also use the colour picker to inspire or at least influence the colour palette that you then go for, if that makes sense. So once you've managed to use the colour picker to get some colours extracted from your imagery, and you've got maybe 2, 3 or 4 colours. Colour palette can be anything from probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 through to maybe 4, 5, 6. I typically have 4 colours. 4 colours is a colour palette for me, and then black and white as well, which obviously are pretty standard. So once you've got some colours, once you've got the hex codes scribbled down, the colour picker, just on that note, will only save one colour at a time. So if I go and pick another colour and save it into the colour picker, this will get replaced. So you would want to, or certainly in my experience, there is this clipboard here, but I don't find it very useful. I would personally say just write them down. Once you've found them, go to the Colorzilla colour picker button there, and then write this code down in your notes. And then you've got them in a list. So once you've got them in a list, how do we then set the colours in Elementor so that you don't have to put in the hex codes every time you alter an element? Well, if you click on any element, like I did before, I'm going to use the button again, go to colour. It can be any of the colours, it could be this one as well. You'll notice that when you click in a colour box, there's these tiles here. These should be loosely what colours you're seeing. I may have altered the order at which they're set, but that should be what you see, loosely speaking. It should be something like that. It's like these default colours that Elementor provides. So once you're in this box, if you click on a colour and hold your left finger down on the mouse, if you drag it, a bin appears and you can get rid of them. I'm going to keep the 2 greys because they're quite handy. I quite like those. Okay. When you want to add a new colour, you would click on the black or the white to the left. You type in the hex code here, which in my case is 004B49, which should be. And once you've typed it in, you add picked colour, like so. You then go back to black and do it again to add your other colours. Repeat this for whatever colours you've got aside and set and the ones you want to add. And slowly but surely you are building your colour palette in Elementor. And then last but not least, there we are. So what I've now got is my colour palette in the any colour box on any element. So wherever you go now, on any element, if you go to style, you go to colour, your colours are saved here. So once you've done that, it's now time to go through the site and obviously alter the colours accordingly. So what I would suggest is go to the top of the page. This here is the header, what we call a header. I think those need to be a little darker. I think when I created it, I purposely left them so that I could show you that you obviously can alter the colours. If you try and change them to black or white, sometimes you may have to click off and click back again. It's slightly odd how they've done that. But I actually think that's too black, so I'm going to go for the dark grey. I think that's good. The hover, in my case, is the sort of hot orange, hot red, tongue red, or whatever it was originally called. That's fine. All the hovers are fine. I'm going to click on this, what is an icon list, which is a makeshift navigation menu. This is because the free version of Elementor doesn't come with navigation links and the ability to create a header officially. This is a workaround. as I may have already mentioned and certainly do so later on. So I'm going to go on to this. I'm going to change the text color again to be darker. You can probably see what I'm doing. You'll obviously now realize again this is an icon list widget, so a different widget again to what we've looked at before, but the structure in here is the same. The style widget in the middle is where you can alter the various characteristics and parts of that widget. So that's fine. I'm going to now obviously change this heading. We could make it that color. I think white probably is better. So now I've changed it to white. White is definitely the one. I'm going to do the same on this one as well. And what you need to do is just pass down your website. This button here doesn't look right clearly. When the template was created, it was created with the view that somebody may put a light coloured background on, even a white background on an image. So it means that when you don't have an image in, you can actually see the template text and button when there's no background in. So let's change that to white. Let's change the border, if you notice here, also to white. The hover colour should be okay. That's fine. I think that green button, whilst nice, with my background, I think that needs to be black. Notice there how I've clicked on black and it hasn't changed the background. This is what I mentioned a moment ago. Click off and then click on again. Okay, and the hover is fine. So I'm going to sweep down the website now and alter the various headings. You can do the same. What I'm going to finish on is suggest that have a good first pass at doing this. Alter the colours. Maybe spend a little time trying to get it as right as you can, and then take a break. The reason being that when you come back, you often have a fresh pair of eyes and you will just manage to get that last perfect detail in place a lot quicker. That's all for this video. Next up, how to create a logo.